Jonathan. And finally, we're going to go to the Lieutenant Governor race. And unfortunately, Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst could not be here. He did have a prior engagement that he could not back out of. He'd already rescheduled it once. And to note on his behalf that he has in the past made several efforts to communicate with the Northeast Tarrant Tea Party and through private meetings both here and in Austin. It's regrettable he cannot be here to answer these questions. I'll just share the ones that we were going to ask him. There are 12 Democrats in the Senate. Why did you appoint half of them to the committee, key committee chair positions while strong conservatives were sitting on the bench? You have campaigned on a plan to secure the Texas border. You have been Lieutenant Governor for 12 years and have had the opportunity to put border security in the state budget. Instead, the current budget actually cut border security funding. And I will note, by the way, there is very few times that conservatives will complain about that. But how are Texans supposed to believe that your campaign rhetoric on this subject, when you've had more than one time to act, more than enough time to act, and the actions you've taken have been completely opposite of what you're running on? And finally, please tell us why on God's green earth, that's in the paper, were you at a fundraiser dinner the last summer during Wendy Davis's pro-life filibuster, allowing her to earn national recognition? Unfortunately, those will have to wait for another day as Governor Dewhurst is not here. But the other candidate is here. That's Dan Patrick. Okay. Senator Patrick, that's everywhere. I've honestly seen him more this campaign season than any other candidate. I hope you're ready for some of our questions. You're the final candidate this evening. Here is the first question.
Do I have a 30-second open? Yes. No.
That was going to be your first question.
All right. First of all, thank you all. I want to tell you how excited I was on election night. When the polls closed at 7, the first little reading on the screen is early vote and mail-in votes. And the first one came across was Tarrant County, and we were up over 50%. I thank all of you. I came up here last summer, and I've been here so many times, and you gave me a chance to be heard. You gave me a chance to talk on the issues. We didn't run a negative campaign, and you supported me. And if we win this race, and we'll win it with your support, I will not let you down. I'll lead as a conservative. With a tie, I'll keep an eye on the tie.
We just asked an absent Dewhurst about his committee appointments.
Yes.
Which feels a lot like asking Clint Eastwood's Obama chair questions. But you've campaigned on reducing the amount of Democrats appointed to chairmen of committees and also reforming the 2/3 rule. Please explain why this is so important for reforming how the Senate does business and how it helped pass the conservative legislation that has sat idle for far too long. You have 3 minutes to do so.
Thank you. From the very first debate that we had in September, where all 4 of us at the time were there, I talked about this issue. It's critical to us being able to pass conservative legislation that has been put on the back shelf. As a committee chairman, as chair of education, I can tell you it's all powerful. As a chairman, I decide in education what bills we hear, what bills we vote out, and really how those bills are shaped. For example, if Stephanie were a senator and had a bill and she asked me to get it out of committee and I didn't like it, of course I would love her bill. She's endorsed me with the Giovanni and Jonathan and Matt and everyone been great. But if there was something, I could say, well, you know, Stephanie, if you change this or that, I might hear your bill. In other words, the committee chairman has all power. Secondly, so the Democrats on those committees, and David Dewhurst said when he was first asked about this, well, those committees aren't very important. That was his answer on the record. Well, if they're not important, we shouldn't have the committees because each committee costs taxpayers $500,000 to $1 million or somewhere in that area. So if the Democratic committees aren't important, well, I consider criminal justice important, I consider veteran affairs important, I consider jurisprudence important, and the other 2 committees we have. So as Lieutenant Governor, I said from day one, I am not going to appoint half of the Democrats as committee chair. You work too hard, we work too hard in the state to elect conservatives, to have good conservatives sitting on the sidelines while Democrats have the chairmanships. So it's going to end. And if you ask David if he were here, he wouldn't answer that question. He has not answered it during the entire campaign. Has not answered what he will do. Secondly, the 21 vote rule. For those, and I think you all are so smart in this room, you know how it works, but for those of you who may not know, it only takes 16 votes to pass a bill in the Senate, but it takes 21 to get it to the floor. Well, we're going to have a new Republican from this area, from Senate District 10, but we'll still only have 20 Republicans. So we'll be one short. That means the most powerful person in the legislature is one Democrat who gives us that 21st vote. And the Democrats have taken advantage of this rule, it's called the blocker bill, to block anything they don't like. And that's why, since Rick Perry's been governor, not his fault, but since Rick Perry's been governor, we've had 15 special sessions. Because in the special session, we don't require the 21 vote rule. That's how we're able to pass what we want to pass. It's not up to the lieutenant governor to make a unilateral decision. If it were, I would change it to 19, which is 60%, not 2/3 of the Senate, but 60% that parallels the U.S. cloture vote in the U.S. Senate. But the senators vote. So we're going to have 20 Republican senators. It only takes 16 to change the rule. I will lean as hard as I can to find the votes to change that rule. When I was elected as a freshman, and I'm down to about 15 seconds, I stood against this rule in 2007 on the Senate floor for the first time in history and brought a vote to the floor. I lost 30-1. But I stood on principle. And now we had 10 votes last session that would have voted for it. I believe we can get 16 and change that rule. And that will change the world. Chairmanships and the 21 vote rule.
Thank you very much. I will remind the audience they have 2 candidates. They can ask outside after this if they'll support that. We'd also like you to address your opponent on the issue of border security. What will you do as Lieutenant Governor to address the flow of people entering the country interstate illegally? And please take 2 minutes.
Thank you. First of all, how many of you saw the debate with Julian Castro last week or heard about it? One of the things that I'm going to do as Lieutenant Governor is I'm going to be bold and take our arguments and our policy, our conservative vision, to Democrat strongholds. And there's not a bigger Democrat stronghold than going into San Antonio and being on Univision and talking to mostly an audience of Democrats about border security. We are never going to get Democrats and Hispanic Democrats to vote for us if we don't go and tell our story. People said, well, Dan, why are you voting? I mean, why are you debating the mayor? He's not running against you. Because I believe we need people who can articulate our conservative message. We care about immigrants, legal immigrants. We care about people coming to this country. But illegal immigration must end. And the only way Washington will ever stop and ever have reform for legal immigration is when Texas secures the border. I believe in Washington, obviously Republicans, maybe the myth is they want cheap labor. I don't know, but they're not doing anything about it. A few are, like Ted Cruz, who offered solid amendments that every Democrat voted against in the Senate. And Democrats want future voters. So both parties, with the exception of a few members, both parties are doing nothing to pass legal immigration. And why should they? They're getting a free flow of people crossing the border. From 2006 to 2012, 1,134,000 were captured crossing our border. That means probably 4 to 5 million got through. As your Lieutenant Governor, I will make securing the border the highest priority. Will we get 100% of the people crossing? There's never 100%. But can we get, instead of what we think 1 out of 5 to 4 out of every 5? Yes, we can. With funding, with technology, with manpower. This Lieutenant Governor has been Lieutenant Governor for 12 years, and people are still flowing across the border. It will end with Dan Patrick as Lieutenant Governor.
I'm just going to push a little bit on that because
Sure.
you said that you funding, manpower, and technology. Yes. Could you please give us? We've heard the rhetoric for 12
Sure.
years and longer than that. Give us specifics.
Well, specifically, and David Dewhurst has said this in debate after debate after debate, and I don't ever criticize him for anything personal, but I will talk about issues and policy and leadership and votes. When I got to the Senate in 2007, we didn't have $1 in the budget for border security. Not in 2003, not in 2005. And in 2007, myself and 2 other senators stood up and I said, look, I can't support this budget. I voted against it anyway, it was too big. But I can't support this budget if we don't have money in there for border security. And the Lieutenant Governor himself has said in debate after debate that beginning in 2008, when I arrived, and a few other conservatives were there willing to stand up, did we put money in for border security? So it is a matter of funding. We need more troopers. We need to help the border sheriffs, and most of the border sheriffs have endorsed me, and they're Democrats on the border. They know that I'm serious about this issue. We can do it. It's a matter of priority of funding, and just to give you a sense of how small it is, we spent almost $800 billion in our budget, but $800 million on water security. It's a rounding error. It's not a serious effort. I will make it a serious effort.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. All right, Senator Patrick, in the 2012 election, you endorsed David Dewhurst for Senate. David Dewhurst is now your opponent. I'm assuming you would like to retract some of your praises. You actually said on Facebook that he is a conservative, and there's been rumors today that somebody from your staff actually deleted that post. Could you please respond to this?
Sure.
And your changing opinion in 1 minute.
Sure. If he were here, I hope you would ask him the question that he's appointed me chairman and put me on finance, transportation, criminal justice, and every other committee, so obviously he's had a lot of confidence in me and wants to oppose me. I was good before, not now. First of all, the deleted post was not done with my permission or anyone. It is back up. It was the staff person who did it, and we, without permission, and we corrected them. Secondly, I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm not going to walk. It would be disingenuous to sit here and say what I said then does not apply now. All of us who are running for lieutenant governor, the other two candidates, all of us supported David. In the Texas Senate, every senator stayed quiet on the race until 5 days before the last day. And then we said we would vote for the lieutenant governor. I do believe he has served as a conservative for most of his tenure. Not my kind of conservative, not a Jonathan Stickland or Giovanni or Stephanie kind of conservative. But I wouldn't call him a liberal. Others can. But this past session is why I'm running against him. I'm running against him because he gave us Wendy Davis. I'm running against him because he was not there a third of the time. I'm running against him because in the middle of the pro-life bill, he went out to a restaurant to have who knows what. He never has said, was he drinking or eating? He just says he wasn't doing either one. And I'm running because we need new, conservative, passionate leadership. And I appreciate what he's done. I appreciate his public service. It is time for new conservative leadership as I define it as conservative.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. You have advertised that you want to reduce property taxes.
Yes.
Is this a pipe dream? Or can it really happen? Are we eliminating them altogether? Please say yes. Or will there be all sorts of red tapes and caveats? Share with us what you will do to change the system. Please take 2 minutes.
Sure. This has been an issue that I ran on in 2006 when I was first elected to the Senate. Because I could see the 10% appraisal cap was eventually going to double your property taxes in about 8 or 9 years. The rule of 72, whatever you divide by 72 doubles. So if your property values go up 8% a year, in 9 years your taxes double. No one can afford that, and governments don't need twice the increase in their budgets as population and inflation, which normally runs 3 or 4%. I filed bill after bill after bill in finance to reduce the appraisal cap or cut the taxes in different ways. They've never gotten past finance. I will have a finance chair who will get the bill out of committee. Now, and we will pass it off the floor. The appraisal value is the problem. If your values go up, it automatically takes your taxes up. And you cannot afford for your taxes to go up 8 and 9% a year. It is a crisis for homeowners. You should live in a state where even if you pay off your house and you're retired, you can't afford to live in it because of property taxes. There are many ways to get to where we need to get. And I'm going to get it done. Trust me, I will get this done. Because we now even have Democrats who recognize that many of their voters are being forced out of their homes, particularly in the inner city where the land now is worth more than the house, and someone knocks the house down and puts up a $500,000 condo, and their taxes go up and they're forced out. There are 3 ways. You can reduce the appraisal cap. That's one way to get there. Secondly, kind of a seesaw. As your value goes up, your effective tax rate must go down to no more than population and inflation, and then make your local county officials, city officials, and school districts come to you and say, I need more than population and inflation. Right now, your local governments get an automatic increase in their budgets every year of 8 or 9% and never have and say, I've never raised your rates. They don't have to. They're getting huge increases. If they need more money than population and inflation, it should be your decision at the local level to make that decision. Or we can restrict revenue caps where if their money goes up too high, you automatically get a tax cut. We're going to do it. It has to be done, and we'll get it done. Thank you.
Would you be willing to say who you would put as finance chair?
I can't legally, but I will. But I can say this. But let me say this. I can say this: that I wrote a letter because I serve on finance. I wrote a letter when Tommy Williams resigned in October. That as a member of finance, we needed a finance chairman, and the person that I would, as a member of finance, not a person running for lieutenant governor, as a member of finance, I think conservative Jane Nelson would have been an excellent choice to be the interim finance chairman. She's the ranking senior member. She'd be the first woman in history to be the chairman of finance, and she, along with the one or two other members, the most conservative members on the committee.
All right, I just wanted to ask so we can actually go and speak with them about it as well, and I appreciate
Sure.
you being willing to give us that information.
Again, that's not as a candidate. I don't want to break any rules. There'll be a TV ad tomorrow that I broke some rules.
There's been a lot of talk this week about your bankruptcy.
Yes.
I'm going to give you 1 minute to explain.
I think it needs more than a minute. Can you give me 90 seconds? Is that fair? Here's the answer. I've never hid it. The commercial you see on television, even the Austin American-Statesman said, "Pants on fire, lie." David Dewhurst is pulling out the same card he always plays. He's worth $200 or $300 million, and when he can't win on public policy, when he's lost the political argument, he attacks on a personal basis with nothing but lies. My name, Dan Patrick, was changed in 1977 when I got my first TV job. I was Dan Patrick before I came to Texas. I wrote a book in 2002. I meant to bring a copy tonight. I have a chapter in there called The University of Bankruptcy. I've talked on my radio show about it. I failed. That's nothing more than a lot of other Texans did in the mid-'80s when oil dropped. And so I've never hid anything. I don't have any tax liens. All of that, it never pocketed any money. It's just 3 lies by Dewhurst. At least the Austin American-Statesman recognized. And I will say this in closing. I don't attack personally. I don't say anything personally. But it's very hypocritical of him to say he's a businessman who's never failed. He declared bankruptcy in 1982. He was sued by a bank for $800,000 in court because he didn't pay off a loan he had to pay in court. And he still owes $1.3 million in debt to his vendors from the U.S. Senate campaign he hasn't paid. I don't bring those things up, but when he wants to charge me, let's set the record straight. I'm the only guy running for lieutenant governor that doesn't have any debt to creditors.
Thank you very much, sir. Could you please take about 30 seconds and just name us some of your key endorsements?
Key endorsements. Well, I'm starting right here in Tarrant County. Julie, Stephanie, Jonathan, Giovanni, Matt. Now we have Pat Fallon, Ron Simmons, Tony. We have 26 House reps, conservatives, who have endorsed us. The current lieutenant governor doesn't have 1. We have 6 senators who have endorsed us. I think he has 1 or 2, but I haven't seen them surface. All 9 are very public. We've received the endorsements from Family Research Council, Tony Perkins. We've received the endorsement from Governor Mike Huckabee. We've received the endorsement from, 400 precinct chairs or 300 precincts. I don't want to exaggerate it all. Again, it'll be a TV ad tomorrow. But a lot of endorsements. And in Power Texas, all the conservative groups, 95% of the Tea Party, that 90 or 95 that endorsed Ted Cruz have endorsed our campaign.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
One last question. I would like to hear how you compare to your opponent. Obviously, you shared quite a bit already, but how are you more qualified for the position? And as our final question, just please take 1 minute to share your experience, qualifications, as well as any differences that you have not had a chance to discuss yet that we've not covered.
Sure. So what's the total time? Is it 2?
You have 1 minute.
Okay, 1 minute. I've said throughout the campaign, and many of you have seen some of the debates, I appreciate the Lieutenant Governor's public service. He's done some good things. I've not negatively campaigned against him. Whatever he does, it's just not in me to run that kind of campaign. I'd rather lose on a high note than win on a low note. So I'm going to stick to public policy. And I think if you measure the two of us by the type of campaign we're running, it tells you who you want to vote for. I'm going to be talking about issues for the next 5 weeks for as much money as I can raise. He has unlimited money, and that's why he spent $1 million this week attacking me. I can't respond to that. The difference is, I'm prepared for the job. 2 years on finance, chair of education, higher education, transportation, criminal justice, redistricting, sunset. He gave me a big workload because he knew I could handle it. I led in education this year with sweeping reform showing I can work when I have to with the other side as well as every Republican, rural and urban. I'm ready for this job because at 64 I said I'm not going to be 84 and look back when I was in my 60s as a senator and said I didn't have the courage to take the arrows that I knew were coming to do what was right. I appreciate his public service, but his leadership tank is empty in my view. We need someone who's going to show up for work. I've missed 1 day out of 640 or 50. I missed about 6 or 8 votes out of 16,000. He was missing in action this session, and I said we need new leadership to cut your taxes, secure the border, pass school choice, campus carry, and not give the Democrats too much power in the Senate. That's the reason I'm running.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you all. You all have been great, and I need you to praise God. God bless everybody.
That is a round of applause for all of our candidates. We appreciate it very much. I'll pass it back over to Julie to close it out. And if you'd like to follow or message me if you have any complaints, you can find me at twistedconservative.com.